Hey,
We're live. We're back. It's Tuesday.
We back
It's 2:00.
every Tuesday.
Time for mine. Oh, except last Tuesday.
Last Tuesday there was a break.
Yeah, we took a break. Sorry, we took a day off. But it's Tuesday. It's 2:00. It's time for Minot Talk.
And we have some stuff to talk about.
We do.
There's been some things that went down.
It was a busy night last night. And if we just want to get rolling right off the bat, new city.
You don't even want to talk about what you're doing on July 4th.
What am I doing on the 4th?
What are you?
I'm staying here. I got the day off. I got to work on the 5th.
Boom.
This weekend, though, I'm going down to Bismarck, spend some time with family down there.
Beautiful.
That'll be fun. What about you, Jonathan? What are you doing on the 4th?
I'm going to spend time with family somewhere south of town.
Good for you. That'll be fun. Gonna go light off some fireworks?
I'll probably watch it.
Good.
I don't like much fireworks, man.
That's fair.
I like my money.
I was gonna say they're expensive. They're cheap. That stuff gets expensive fast. They got to have a great markup on them too.
Yeah, something like that.
But some other big stuff's happening on the 4th too.
Oh yeah,
I know in town there's a big Hot Tots game going on. They got a whole bunch of events they're going to have at that. Then right after the Hot Tots game, you can just drive right down Burdick over to Nodak Speedway, and they're going to have a special session of the racing going on Thursday night. I think it starts at 7 p.m. Nodak Speedway.
Nice.
It's the special session.
Okay.
Then immediately following at about 10:30, 10:45, they have, I believe, the largest fireworks show in North Dakota going on. And that is
even bigger than the Badlands.
That's what they say.
Wow, they're talking it up.
They claim it's the largest in the state. So
good for them. Go Minot.
We'll see how it goes. It's normally, if you've never been before, it's always a good show.
Yeah, if there's one thing Minot's good at, it's spending money.
Exactly. Well, hey, they chose not to spend money last night at the city council meeting.
There was some wild stuff that happened, I think.
It was interesting. We got a brand new city council sworn in. We got Mike Blessum, Scott Samuelson, Rob Fuller, all three brand new sworn in last night.
We already told them thank you, but thank you to Scott Burlingham, Kerry Evans, Stephen Padragula.
Yes, they
been a good run.
It was, yep. And they exited gracefully, and we're moving on to a new era, which kicked off pretty hot last night, I think. I mean, it was a interesting session when you got to the regular meeting. Immediately, one little fun thing I thought when Tom Ross, the mayor, was going through his report, it was the 50th anniversary this year of Magic City Minot Magic City Campus. It was 50 years of Magic City.
Wow.
And now we have brand new Minot North coming.
That is kind of neat.
That's fun. He went there and he spoke, I know, but so the meeting kicks off, and Mike Blessum, new city councilman, very vocal right away. Also, before we get into that, one big thing that was mentioned too in the city manager's report, 3rd Street Bridge, which has been closed for most of the summer so far, doing some construction in that area. It's going to remain closed, it sounds like.
Yeah, so there's something wrong with one of the pillars?
There's some questionable issues with it on safety concerns. So they're going to have a DOT government people come run an assessment on it, do some tests.
Yikes.
So there's worst case scenario, 3rd Street Bridge might not open again, or for a very long time.
Did they mention that it might not open again?
They didn't say that specifically, but they brought up the potential of Harold Stewart brought up specifically the Minneapolis bridge collapse that happened 15 years ago, because and that's been a thing nationally.
That was 15 years ago?
I think 07, I want to say. It might even
be,
maybe 08. It might even be over 15 years ago. I could be off on that too.
We're gonna find out, because I thought
you can look it up right there. And it's been nationally a lot of deteriorating bridges that's been seen and heard from nationally a lot lately around the news. And Minot itself is clearly experiencing that too with the 3rd Street Bridge. And hopefully it's not as major with the concrete.
10 years ago.
It was 10 years ago.
Oh, no, sorry.
No. Okay.
10 years ago in 2017.
Okay.
So you were right the first
2007.
time.
I thought so.
I
had an aunt that lived in Minneapolis at that time.
You're a scholar.
I don't know about that. But no, it was so hopefully it's not as major of an issue as it could be, and it can be a quick fix so we can still have that bridge before the end of this year, and they don't have to do any major repairs on it that could take far longer than originally anticipated there.
Man, why did I feel like there was a bridge collapse more recent than that? I thought it was in Minneapolis.
The Baltimore one? that used to happen
No,
a few months.
that one was crazy. It was
That
a
was.
straight up collapse. Nonetheless, not that big of a deal.
Fair. But yeah, that was one of the big tidbits they
Yeah.
had rolling off.
That'd be crazy if that bridge actually got shut down.
Well, it's one of Minot's major north-south thoroughfares
Arteries.
in town. It's very important.
It is.
But kicking off, so they had 12 consent items they approved last night, and there was a couple that Mike Blessum brought up, wanted to discuss
Good.
a little further. Right off the bat, it was item 2 and 12. It was just a couple of item 2, looking at it specifically here. Blessum wanted to, what was it? Oh, yeah, he talked about the paving. So going past that, even when the paving 6.1, the first main item brought up was the expansion of a new development district over by 55th Street Southeast.
Yeah.
So over by that bypass east of town,
Right.
Nedrow School, there's an area there where the FEMA trailer park
Yes.
used to be. There's
Right.
still some trailers there, and there was also next to it a development of townhomes there. That was is currently has a developer in charge of it that is working on it, and they petitioned the city for help to update utilities and some easements and some roads in that area.
Okay.
So this invest at their request $17,000 per lot into this development, and
Nice.
there was an undetermined amount of lots to be developed to be assisted with. And in short, the city would then hope that the developing company would build on those lots, sell the homes, and then those homes would eventually create tax income.
Yay.
Property taxes. Always circling back to that. But the city,
It's a revenue source.
it is. And but the city would then be taking on all of that risk if the company, like we've seen recently in town, wasn't able to succeed with that.
It happens.
It does. We've seen Epic in Minot lately. And so this developing company wants to build homes out on the east side of town there. And after a lot of discussion going back and forth, I think all 6 city council members present, Councilman Paul Pittner wasn't present at the meeting last night. He was over there over the phone for the first part of the special meeting when the new council members were sworn in, and for the president and vice president voting of the new council, which also Mark Janser.
We'll touch on it.
Yeah, we'll get to that. You're right. Let me finish our first point with this first one here. So yeah, the 6 present members all had a point to make, and long story short, everyone voted against it. They did not think the city should try to take on that risk, spend that money over something that's not guaranteed.
Nice. Interesting.
Yeah, and I know Mike Blessum reiterated this being their first one. He mentioned that he thought that the city, after their satisfaction survey and after the voting from last month, this was the way that the city should be going and trying to save money.
Interesting.
Then,
so is this the new style of city council?
It might be, because this could be a shakeup that we've had in Minot for a couple of years. We'll have to see how it plays out over the next few months.
But even in this meeting, we saw more of it.
We did.
So it was a no on the paving district.
Yep, getting that paving district
at 55th Crossing.
Yep.
And there was also a desire to just lost an earbud. Oh well. There was also a desire for the city to purchase some land.
There was. Yep. And that was the second big consent, or not consent item, agenda item. So there was this lot of land that is connected to a piece of property that the city already owns, and the landowner is trying to sell it. They came to the city first, knowing that the city
has is ooga booga money,
without a doubt, and is connected to it, so it would make for an interesting opportunity. So long story short, the price of this land is, I think it's an 8-acre lot, if I'm not mistaken. It's $920,000. And so the city council discussed it, and Mike Blessum, Scott Samus, and Rob Fuller all voted and argued against it, saying this is not the way the city should be spending this money. They could be doing something a lot more efficiently with that $920,000, etc. Voting in favor was Mark Janser, Lisa Olson, and Tom Ross, and they all effectively argued that this would be a good investment for the city. The city didn't have any major plans for it immediately. Their big goal, because the property they do own in the area is a storage site for a lot of construction equipment. It's overflowing and congested, so they were going to immediately use this as an overflow area for that, with then plans to eventually do something with it later, but those plans nothing is in place at this point. So city then depending on what they would do with it over time, they would have. I know there was an access road in front of it that they could potentially subdivide and sell off. They said, but the three that voted in favor, then Mayor Ross, and then Janser and Olson, they were arguing those points. And so taking it into effect, because it was a 3-3 vote and Paul Pittner wasn't present, we're not sure how he would have voted by any means. But because of that tie vote, there was no majority to be had. So that vote fails. So the city, as of now, at least, will not be going through with the purchase of that property.
So I know we don't always give our opinions on this on Minot Talk, but how do you feel about that?
I see both sides of it. I definitely agree where Bless and Fuller Samuelson were coming from. The city doesn't need to be spending money. And on the flip side, I can fully see that the city, the other point, that this is a land investment. Land prices never go down typically.
Right.
This could be the potential to do something, and it's an opportunity to take. So I can see both aspects of it.
Eventually, you got to build for the future.
Exactly.
And maybe this isn't the time to do that.
On the flip side, and maybe this isn't the land Minot should be acquiring.
Right.
If we have other properties we could potentially utilize for it, I don't know. But this is something that in the long run, at least as of now, isn't going to be pursued. However, if we want to get into this now, fast forward a little ways after the personal appearances, there's the miscellaneous items. Councilwoman Lisa Olson brought up a point and asked what the process would be to re-administer an item onto the agenda and to re-vote. And so long story short, it can either be voted to get upon again in the same session or the session immediately following.
Interesting.
And so pending if there's any kind of deadlines or timelines with the transaction or pricing of that property, I know that following the meeting, Lisa Olson confirmed to me she plans to, again, pending any sort of deadline or issues with the pricing going forward in the next couple of weeks, she plans to reintroduce this when City Councilman Pittner's present, and to get a revote when all 7 members are there to vote for it.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll be following up on this one.
We'll have to. We're going to be watching this one in a couple of weeks.
Maybe we'll have to get Alderman Pittner on.
Might have to.
Here, next week, figure out what he's
going to do on it.
Yeah.
If we'll have to make sure there isn't that it will still end up being on the agenda, but I mean, assuming it does and it can go forward, that would that one vote all of a sudden becomes huge. That's the deciding factor.
Huge is right.
And
very interesting.
To piggyback off this, just a little speculation, is this something that we could possibly be seeing a lot more of in city council over the next months or year or two?
As far as what? Obviously, it seems like fiscal responsibility is a priority.
It should be. But it's just interesting to see very first night the old guard voting wholly differently from the new guard that's been brought in.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how everything meshes over time.
Without a doubt.
Right now, everybody kind of feels where they stand, I think, that because of the perceptions and stuff. And I'm not saying that the people that are voted in are going to be weakened on stances, and I'm not calling that out. But there'll be more information that's given them too. And so there can be change of perspectives based off of the information that's given.
Without a doubt.
It'll be interesting to see how it plays out over time.
I know one of them said too, they don't want to spend money unnecessarily, but at the same time, they're going to look at everything independently to view it.
Right.
So it's not just a blanket no to spend money.
People that are fiscally responsible have nice houses.
Typically so.
And they have nice cars and they have nice things. And sometimes it's not the newest car and sometimes it's not the newest thing. But the point of that is, just because you're fiscally responsible doesn't mean that you have a nice house, but it doesn't mean that you can't buy one. And so for the city of Minot, just because being fiscally responsible or being fiscally doesn't mean we shouldn't buy the land.
Exactly.
It's not what that comes down to. What needs to be looked at is this the right time?
Exactly.
And the right opportunity. I think that's the thing that should be, if it's something like that, that's one of the determining factors that should be looked at. I mean, obviously the thing that keeps on coming up on social media and places like that in Minot is the money that was spent on the signs,
Yep,
the wayfinding signs.
yep.
And it seems like consensus now, I mean, there was people that were in support of it, but it seems like you find a lot more negative. Now, a lot of times negativity outweighs positivity, but
Especially on social media.
especially there. I think something like that, though, is something where you can be like, that's not necessary. We don't need that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe in the long term, we need this if we're going to grow and we're going to be whatever, then it's proven that if, in order for us to be this type of city, we need it.
Mm-hmm.
So long term, we need to look at doing that. Maybe it was looked at long term. Maybe it was something that had been talked 5 to 10 years. I really don't know. But the point is something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I can see that being fiscally responsible. Like, hey, we're not here to spend money
Without a
on
doubt.
unnecessary things.
Because you can see it too. That could be potentially an asset for the city then.
The land.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. It literally goes onto your ad. And I understand that you lose revenue, and that's something that has to be looked at and
Mhm.
really considered. The Minot Voice put out a good article concerning that on that issue.
Mm-hmm.
Like every single time the city purchases land, they lose money.
Yep.
They lose revenue.
Yep. Because the city doesn't pay property taxes to itself.
Right. So, and if they want to solve that problem, just have Trinity pay property taxes.
That'd be huge.
That'd be huge. It would probably push them out of town.
I mean, I don't think they'd be too happy.
No, I'm not really advocating for that.
Not by any stretch. No.
But yeah, definitely interesting discussion right there.
Oh, for sure.
So, do you think it passes though?
I have no inside knowledge on
No inside
this.
knowledge.
Gut feeling, I would say at the next meeting, it would probably pass 4-3. Just
The only reason
based off the vibes.
Alderman Pittner, because we don't think you're fiscally responsible and all that. Not getting into that. We talked budget. You came on the podcast, talked budget. It's just your real estate guy, so you understand real estate.
There you go. And you never know. People could change their votes in that time too. People could if it gets brought back up, people could have time to reevaluate, look at things a little differently, and they go from there. Maybe they like something that they didn't see. Maybe they had time to reevaluate. They think that maybe the subdividing of it and selling part of it now and then using the rest for storage and development later could be the best asset. Or maybe someone that voted for it looks at it and thinks maybe we really don't need this. And
it's a really interesting city council now, though.
It is. It's a very different dynamic than what it was before. It's.
I don't think I fully can explain it yet.
It's too early to tell for sure. It's one meeting in. It's way too early, but on one meeting, it's a very different vibe coming from it than it had before.
1 week earlier, or 2 weeks earlier, this probably maybe not be slam dunk, but probably would have passed.
I would bet anything it would have been
at least by you probably got one more vote for sure.
I would think so.
And it'll be interesting to see if that's a battle. Like how much it's going to be a battle, and that's good.
It's a necessary thing to have.
Totally great. We need it.
Mm-hmm.
But it'll be interesting to see what the dynamics of that is going into every meeting. If there becomes a little bit of battle, how much politics begins to really play.
Yep.
Okay.
If it ends up being a partisan thing, or if it just remains.
Yeah. And when I was saying politics, I just meant like in general.
Yeah, no, just the politicking of it.
Right. But yeah, then also, I mean, yeah, hopefully nobody crosses the line and gets parties involved.
Or anything like that. But just rather than parties, even just one side versus the other kind of ordeal.
Right. It's which there was a little bit of that before, though.
To an extent, by all means.
I don't think it was as wide, though.
That's the thing and especially with the 3 new council members we have that were all voted in together on effectively the same, not ticket, but block.
Yeah.
And they all have similar ideas. That was part of their campaign, is they're all getting in this because they have similar concepts. And it's, you can assume that they're going to majority of the time vote similarly with each other. It's maybe not a guarantee, but you could imagine a vast majority of the time, those 3 men, at least to start here, are going to vote probably with each other.
Obviously, there's a reason why they were willing to run together. I don't think that they mentioned on the podcast, we're individual people.
Exactly.
We're not going to go in as a block and vote the same way on issues. But obviously, they felt comfortable with one another to go ahead and run on the same ticket.
Mm-hmm.
We're calling it a ticket, but it's not really a ticket. But
no.
They definitely ran on the same sign.
For lack of better terms.
Ran on the same sign.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there you go. That's a good way to put it, on the same sign.
And so, as mentioned, there's a ton of comfortability that they have with each other because of that. And so it would be anticipated that a lot of their voting would be similar to each
Mhm.
other. There should be a little bit of dispersion, but not as much as you're going to see across the board.
Not by any means, I don't think. And I think right now too, like we mentioned earlier, it's so near the election. It's their first meeting. They have to hammer home the principles that they were elected on.
Yeah.
It's you're proving the point that this is why I was elected.
Yeah. So that's a really interesting thing.
It'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
If you have an opinion on that, drop it down in the comment. We'd love to see what you're thinking.
Without a doubt, we always read them if we get them. At least we try to if I can see.
Oh, we definitely read them. Now, some of you, we don't read your comment on air, but we read them.
That's a great way to put it.
All right. There was some more stuff that happened at City Council.
There was, yeah. So bigger picture of everything. We mentioned a little bit Mark Janser, who was the longest serving city council member on the board. He was elected president of the city council with, I believe it was a 4-3 vote with Pittner, Olson, Ross, and himself in favor, and then Samuelson, Blessum, and Fuller voting against. And then Councilwoman Lisa Olson was voted on as the vice president, and that was a unanimous vote. They were both. I think those are both of our longest serving city council
That's good.
members, and so it makes sense that the two most experienced members are leading the pack, so to speak.
Yeah, especially in time of transition.
Exactly. Especially when, I mean, half the city council is new at this point. And going from that, then there was also a third agenda item on the list. So going back forward now,
We're jumping all around.
had to detour back. Forgot to mention that part. So we had to detour, talk about the new president, vice president of the council. Now back to agenda item number 3. From 2 weeks ago, there was some policy discussion going on, and there was it was tabled for later discussion, and so to bring it up at this time, and it was going to be passed, and new alderman Mike Blessum offered an amendment on it, and he just added some fiscal numbers to it to add a little more guidelines for the requisitioning of, because a lot of it is to go after delinquent payers that are overdue in the city of Minot on
Gotcha.
any kind of bill, whether it be,
Don't come after me.
if it's the water, sewer, anything.
So are
like
they
that.
saying to what are they saying? So it hits accounts receivable and then take water. They turn off your services and then they just basically stop pursuing at this point.
When it hits a certain dollar amount, I think it was $500 to $1,500. It goes to the first step of the process, and that's observed by city employees. When it goes to that next dollar figure, like that $1,500 to $2,500, it's then viewed by the city manager and the head of the department, and that was one of Mike Blessum's points, is he wanted to have two eyes on everything when it got past a certain dollar figure. That way, if you do just end up pushing it off, there's two people consenting to that, or if you do end up pursuing it, there's also two people consenting to that. It's not just one person is there signing off on anything, whether it be it's
really to protect the one person.
Exactly. It's to make it more consensus based,
accountable.
Yeah, more accountability on it. And I know Harold Stewart mentioned a point, like if a car, like on the Burdick and Broadway intersection, those lights that have been hit lately.
Yeah.
When that happens, it's like a $500,000 repair. So they go after the car's insurance, the insurance company. And typically with things like that right now, the maximum they can get out of it is $25,000. And after that, they effectively just have to write off the remainder. Because I mean, the insurance company only pays so much, and you can't go after the private citizen if they were insured at that point, unless you can prove it was reckless. But at that stage too, I don't know if the city of Minot would be worth investing pursuing.
No way. This can't be right. So if I go run my house into a building, then all they can get is $25,000?
At least based off of generalities and what Harold Stewart said last night. I assume there's probably exceptions for it, but I assume since he used that as an example, it must have happened.
There's got to be. I'm going to look into this.
Feel free, but I would encourage it. In fact,
we
can talk about it next.
Well, they dealt with it, so I get where they're coming from. But that'd be really interesting if literally you can do any damage, and then and I understand that there's a max for your insurance.
Yeah,
but you should still be able to pursue from the individual.
You would think at that point,
because I know it's a different type of insurance, but the hospital, they're like, yeah, your insurance covered this, and you still owe us this.
Exactly. So you think that the city could still put the bill towards the.
Yeah, but they also know that if you give me a $300,000 bill, I can't afford it,
Yeah,
buddy.
who's gonna yeah, on the flip side, it's and I think that's part of it too then. So then you have the multiple people looking at things and assessing those things. And then if it gets to the third stage, it were to be brought to the city council for
Mm.
them to oversee the issue at that stage. And so then there's issues like that where it's you have multiple people looking at it and you can have consensus going on to whether to pursue it or to just write it off
Right.
effectively.
Right. Very
And that
interesting.
amendment passed, and so did the policy agreements. It was all unanimous.
So finally something passed.
Exactly. We had something get accomplished last night.
Mouse. Well, hey, even and I understand what you're saying. So I'm not trying to call you out, but even stuff that's failed does not mean that there was not accomplishment.
Not by any means. We don't have you don't have to pass everything that comes before you. In fact, you shouldn't. And look at the first item on the agenda. It failed like 6 votes to nothing.
Yeah.
Everyone voted against it because it was that egregious of
That can be a good
step
thing.
by the city to try to take on that much of a risk.
So what about all right, first off on that, do you think the city knew that it was going to go down like that?
I doubt they thought I would bet that
It's got to be part of a long-term plan.
yeah, or they thought that it at least wouldn't have been a consensus vote against if they would have brought it for this to the city council.
Unanimous. But if there were 5 votes in and you're the city council member, are you going to vote in favor or against? If 5 are against,
that's such a point. Then are you just voting to vote with, or are you going to vote on because you truly believe it's the right thing, or are you going to vote against it just to be the dissenting voice?
Especially right now, man. There's a lot of eyes over there.
There are. It was a busy city council meeting last night. Granted, this was the first one I've been to in person since I was younger at the old.
So did you? But you've still watched them. Somebody said it was just a much better city council meeting.
It seemed like it.
Really?
It was.
How was it better? Because nothing really changed in how it was ran.
Okay, maybe better isn't the best term, but it felt like we said earlier. There's a different vibe to it. It felt different. Maybe not better, but it's changed. You have 3 different people out of the 6 that were there, right. 7 total, and there's different ideas, different opinions. You have Mike Blessum. He was very vocal last night. I think all 6 members that were present had opinions to go voice on most things that were said last night. It was an hour and a half long meeting, which isn't that long compared to a lot, but there was a lot to be said in that hour and a half.
No, if you can have an effective hour and a half meeting, I think that's great for city council.
And I think they did, especially compared to a lot of the stuff we've seen in the past.
What's up with the wayfinding signs? Phase 1's complete and then phase 2 goes before?
Yep.
Council again?
Yeah, they brought that up a little bit. So phase 1 is complete and everything. Phase 2 is
it complete? Are all the signs standing? Do you know?
As far as they mentioned last night, it is
even after all the wind? Because there was a lot of signs that went down.
They were all put up.
Okay, originally.
If they came down and have to be re-put up, that's a different story. But the initial signs were all put up.
Yeah.
So you go past that. And now the next phase begins end of this year, next year. And phase 2 includes a large portion of it is revamping and rehabbing our city entrance signs. So the big welcome to Minot Magic City, the signs that you see coming into town on the south side, north side, they're going to be revamping those and rehabbing those.
Okay, so that stinks because I'll be honest, I have felt for a while that we needed to do something about those.
Mm-hmm.
It always looked dreary when you came into Minot.
They're old.
They're old.
They've been there as long as I can remember.
South of town, I don't even think there is a sign. You only have them. You have one east of town, and I think you have one west of town too. I don't think there's one south of town.
I can't remember off the top of my head. I feel like there might be, but
really?
Regardless, I mean, it's all.
Well, if so, I drive that road too often because I don't see it anymore.
I can't remember.
There could be. There could be. I could be getting mixed up. If you're watching this and you know the answer, let us know.
Yes.
Confirm. So, but in north of town, there is one north of town.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So this, I think personally, and now we had to go and look at all the financials and stuff like that. I'm not saying it looking at that, but if I had to choose
the general idea,
if I had to choose between wayfinding signs in town or rehabbing the ones on the our skirts of town, the ones that represent Minot, the ones where people are going to take pictures with, the ones that literally will represent Minot over time. Let's rehab those.
I think that's fair.
We threw up this silly thing downtown, and it's cool. You see people taking pictures there, and it goes on social media, and it represents Minot.
So if you rehab those city signs, then and the entrance signs, all of a sudden you have those new looking all nice, and now it's an extra tourist attraction. It's not going
Yeah.
to be a main thing by
Yes.
any stretch, but I mean, it's like you said with the downtown thing. It's a place for people to take pictures.
It's a place, yeah, and those pictures, why do those pictures matter? I understand in general they don't matter, but they represent Minot. That's
Yep.
what people are posting on Minot. You
Yep.
won't see very many posts of someone standing next to a wayfinding sign and posting that picture on Minot.
No.
But I mean, I just took a road trip last week, and we were crossing over into Idaho, and I mean, we're going through the mountain pass.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody pulled off the mountain pass and goes stand next to the Idaho sign as they stand next to a cliff, essentially, willing to take that picture because they got to get that for the gram,
Exactly.
you know? And
Hashtag Idaho.
hashtag Idaho. And the same thing will happen, already does happen, I'm sure, for Minot people that wanted to visiting family, going to the Air Force Base, whatever it might be. And that represents Minot.
Exactly. And it's a good way to present Minot as, if you have those looking nice,
Yeah.
it makes Minot look more appealing. It makes
Does.
Minot look more clean. You have the appeal of it. And when it goes on social media, that just can reach such a higher amount of people then.
Yeah.
I mean,
Make someone else want to go at least find it.
at least see what it is.
So
Pop the question.
that'll be interesting to see what happens with the second phase.
You have those wayfinding signs getting kicked in here.
Oh man. I haven't got my bike out and tested if I can ride underneath.
If you're too tall or not.
I feel like I've got to be.
It's close, at least some of them, especially some of them. They have like right in the middle of the sidewalk too.
Right in the middle of the sidewalk. On there's one when you turn onto Burdick, you go east on Burdick towards the zoo. When you turn on Burdick from Broadway, at that intersection, the main intersection, right where Trinity Hospital parking lot used to be, it still is, but that one is so low. I'm like, dude, there's no way you can underneath that. I don't know, man.
You gotta
see, I don't know if I can walk underneath it. And if you can't walk underneath it, then you can't ride your bike underneath it.
It's impossible at that stretch.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's interesting.
No, without a doubt.
Maybe one day one of the engineers of mine out that helped work on that will come talk to us about it.
Hey, there we go.
Do it.
Who decided the height of the height? Of the
I mean,
wayfinding
most
signs?
likely, obviously, you can go and raise them up, but that would cost more money because the base has to be dealt with differently.
Yeah.
So it's almost like they said, all right, this is how tall we want them to be. This is the how far we're gonna have to go into the ground, all that, so that way it'll be stable. And then the signs just went lower if they had to be, if there was more stuff on it.
If there's any issues with it or
but the actual sign, not the pole. They determined that for all the pole, and then they're like, okay, we have lots of stuff on this one, so now the sign it's going to be longer
instead of making the poles taller. The sign just goes lower to the ground,
right?
Without a doubt.
So it's interesting because some of them are just fine. You're like, that's
you're going to have to test it out for us and let us know.
I feel like this has got to be on video when we do
it, just to be safe, right?
Just to be safe.
But no, that would be the next project we'll have to work on.
That's interesting. You have a project you're supposed to be working on.
Yeah, it's working. It's going to be fun when I actually get it going further than we have.
What happened 15 years ago or whatever it was?
22 years ago.
22 years ago when a train derailed and Minot almost was no more.
Yeah, or it could have been a lot worse than it was. Like the potential for disaster to have truly struck could have been far worse. Like there was one fatality and dozens of people were affected long-term health-wise. But in 2002, when the anhydrous ammonia train derailment occurred, there was it was still to this day, as far as I can tell, the largest anhydrous ammonia spill in U.S. history, and that gas was the way Minot's set up. So it was on the west side of town by Tierra Vallejo. Yes. And it was in the winter. It was in January. So it was cold out, about 6, 7, 8 below outside. And the train derails and it's right in that side of the valley on the west side of town. So you have the perfect conditions for these bursted tanks that are now spilling poison ammonia gas into the air. And it's because of it's so cold and the way the gas settles, it's just sticking to the ground like a fog. And so it's you have it, the wind coming then, just to add insult to injury, coming right out of the west at just about 5 miles an hour. So just a little breeze, but just enough to blow that fog and haze right up through the valley.
Wow.
And
It's gonna be an interesting. It's gonna be an interesting little
it is.
docu
We're
series.
going to hopefully get some interviews for it, and it's going to be a fun.
We will get some interviews.
We
for it.
will. We'll get some people
Yep.
on for sure. It's going to be a fun.
Be good.
Setup.
That's coming out this summer sometime. We don't have an official release date, but that's coming out this summer.
Expect
So
it hopefully this month or sometime this summer, though, without a doubt.
this
It's
month.
going to be it's going to be exciting.
It's July already.
It is. I know it's crazy what happened to the summer. But
No, we're still in the prime of summer.
Summer just started, I guess.
Yes.
To be fair, it's
Okay.
only like 2 weeks.
We still have July,
and
August,
and some of September. September can be
just
up
like
for
we
debate.
had some of April this year.
We did. So hopefully we get some September, and it's not the other way.
So we're
around.
halfway through.
Yeah, there you
Based
go.
off this math, we're halfway through. And in October, you have a couple nice days there.
Yeah, it's always hit or miss in October. Sometimes, like last year, you have a bunch of snow and it's super cold for Halloween.
No,
And then there's, you betcha.
you betcha.
And then there's other years where you have nothing and you have to, you're too hot in your costume.
Yeah.
I remember that growing
Hey.
up all the time.
Fun fact about Jonathan: I have never celebrated Halloween.
Really?
But you probably expected that.
I'm not shocked, I guess, but I mean, never dressed up as a kid?
No.
Fair enough.
No.
It's a big candy grab.
Yeah, that's what it's about. All right. So city council, next one's happening the 15th.
Yep.
July
15th, Monday, 5:30 p.m.
That'll be big. You gonna be there at that one?
Plan on it.
I
I
know.
don't think I have any work
That's great.
commitments at that point.
Looking forward to that. We'll have an article out on the July 1st one later
Yep,
today.
have it tonight. We'll
Tonight.
actually, I know how to use the website now, so we'll actually have it uploaded.
Yeah. Sorry about that, folks. So that'll be out tonight.
Yeah.
Look for that to come out. Just a little bit of report on that. Also, the Minot Voice did some good stuff on that as well, providing some interesting perspective on the land purchase that failed this time.
The potential
Around-
purchase of land.
Yes, the potential purchase of land for the city of Minot. Well, so that's the exciting stuff, man.
That was the big stuff. A couple other fun things in town. I guess one other thing about the meeting, it's not really that interesting, but during the public personal appearances, one gentleman came up and that roundabout we have,
That one roundabout.
the one roundabout in town. Yep, he lives near it, and he was complaining that that no one goes the speed limit through it of 25, I think it is.
They all go like 15.
He says everyone goes too fast, and
That'd be expected.
exactly. But
Come on,
he
that
said,
sounds like fun. Go get a 15 passenger van and go and do that like 50.
go 40 around the roundabout, see what happens. to
Yeah,
you.
that'd be fun.
But he wants he advocated for some kind of crosswalks because it's right by John Hoven Elementary School.
Crosswalk.
I don't know how that would work.
Just
but
put speed bumps in the roundabout.
there you go.
That's all you got to do.
That's easy. That's fair.
You know what? That was for free too.
That's free advice from Jonathan Starr, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, just put some speed bumps in there. You know what? I bring up 15 passenger van because that's what I had the pleasure of doing this past weekend, is driving one of those to Spokane, Washington, and I found joy. This is how I found joy.
How's that?
15 passenger vans are very long. Okay. And what's fantastic about speed bumps is you can go slow over your front tires, and there's enough distance where if you accelerate it, you can give it a big bump in the back. So we started having fun because we'd go slow. I'd go slow over it. So I got over it.
You're fine.
And then I'd speed up halfway through. I'd speed up, and the ones that, I got him
They
again.
get a little launch in the back. It's like
Yes.
riding in the back of the bus. in the
That's right.
school.
That's right.
You go over the railroad tracks, you just get launched in the back. Or hopefully
Yeah.
they were buckled up.
Hopefully they were.
Always
buckled.
Washington.
Washington is a beautiful state. And
way to put it.
so is Western Montana, and so is Idaho. So you just gotta love the views. As you, it's just a beautiful drive.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I probably enjoyed as far as like the traveling portion of that trip. That's what I enjoyed the most.
For sure. Whole different kind of use landscape
Oh,
we
yeah.
have here.
For sure.
Ours is beautiful in its own way.
Yeah. They tell you that.
No,
That's what a North Dakotan will tell you right
you
there.
betcha. Born and raised.
Yeah.
You love
Yeah,
looking
North
out and
Dakota's got
seeing
their its own
nothing
beauty.
as far as you can.
Gotta love those wheat fields and those lakes. There's
Oh,
just
you
something
betcha.
about it. Yeah.
Just spotting the
I
land
will
all
say
over.
this: I when it's harvest time, before it's been harvested,
Mhm.
very beautiful. And in the winter, when you get really nice snowstorm and it's all white and the trees are a little frosty and they got their things going on,
It's a unique look.
beautiful. Yes. You don't get those. But then also, if you were in Washington,
Mhm.
what you would experience is fall. This and before I say that, in North Dakota last year, we had one of the most beautiful falls I can ever remember.
Without a doubt.
It was completely beautiful. I loved it.
It was. It was a fantastic year last year for the fall.
It made me start considering whether or not fall could be my favorite season. Right now, it is purely summer, but potentially if we had more falls like that, I'd enjoy fall more. Go back to Washington, you get snow-capped mountains in the winter,
That's true.
and you get a sprinkling of snow where you're at.
That's
I mean, as long as you're not too close to the mountains.
yeah. If you're
And
not
then
going up it,
you get a true fall every year.
it's fair.
And the other thing you get, and this is why people don't enjoy it, the other thing you get is year-round rain. Just a ton of rain.
It's always the potential for dreariness
Yes,
and overcast skies in Washington.
it never ends. So every every environment has their own pluses and minuses.
Oh, without a doubt, and ours is very unique to where we're at here.
It is.
The Great Plains of America and Canada has its own landscape here.
And then and I think a lot of states have this too, but like in western North Dakota, the Badlands, that is fantastic.
Oh, for sure.
And the North Dakota Badlands, and I mean, I want to fight with someone about this. North Dakota Badlands is better than the South Dakota
I
Badlands.
completely agree. I mean, bias,
Yeah,
of course, but I completely agree. I don't even think it's comparable.
yeah, it
Like
is fantastic.
the views you get going through Theodore Roosevelt National Park are just phenomenal.
And yeah, so you have the actual park, and then when you just go up the highway towards when you're in Medora area and you start heading towards Watford
Yep.
and all that, just beautiful terrain all the way through there. That's probably where you're going to get the most of it. Obviously,
Yep.
when you're going east or out of Medora, you're going east, you get a little bit of it too. Not as long though, but yeah, just some fantastic stuff right there.
Without a doubt. North Dakota, legendary.
Yes, that's what they say. That's what Josh DeMel says.
Always, right?
So he's been saying that for a few years now.
He has. He's a great spokesman for it. Who else do we have?
Well, no, there's an actor out of Dickinson.
Is there? Are they new?
Nah, when I pull up his name, you're gonna know it.
I will, I'm sure. I guess we could do Phil Jackson, the old Lakers and Bulls
Yeah.
coach. He's
Louis L'Amour. Come on.
of
If
course,
there's
okay,
not
yeah,
somebody
of
that
course, yeah,
that
that's fair.
represents North Dakota better than Louis L'Amour,
That's fair. That's a great point. Is Louis L'Amour still
no.
okay? I didn't think so.
All right, let me know if you know this name. Kellen Lutz.
Sounds familiar. What's he look like? I'd have to see him.
Now, I don't watch TV. But Wikipedia says made his film debut in Stick It. Have no idea what that is. Best known for playing Emmett Cullen in the Twilight Saga.
I know what Twilight is.
That's all I got.
Good for him. Hey, he was in Twilight from Dickinson. That's awesome.
That's all I got, man.
I love it. Well, there we have it.
There we have it. That's a Northern North Dakotan actor. I don't even know how Josh DeMel got famous,
Right?
other than being an actor. What is there a movie or a film or a TV show that he was in that was like crazy?
His big film roles probably Transformers.
Transformers. That's what it was.
Yeah, I would say that's it. And he wasn't even the starring character in it.
Just
but,
a character.
you know, he did a lot of TV stuff for a long time in like the early 2000s. He was on a show based in Las Vegas where he worked at a casino. He was on like a soap opera occasionally. He did a whole bunch
Weird
of
stuff.
Yeah.
Weird stuff.
But
Unimportant.
without a doubt, in the grand scheme, there's us rambling, doing a little of
North Dakota be legendary. That's where that came from.
you betcha.
You betcha.
You're darn
Well,
right.
with that, I think that's a wrap on another week.
I think we did good.
I think we did
Recap
good.
of City
I think
Council.
people need to pay attention to city council going forward. There's going to be a lot of interesting. I was going to ask you how full was the room?
For how I normally see it over online, it was over half full, I think, or about half full.
Nice.
Which I think that's far and away busier than what I normally see it.
We might start getting you an attendance counter for city council.
Right? Maybe we'll have to do that. Give me something to do when I'm there.
Yeah, I think that'd be interesting.
Without a doubt.
Be interesting. Obviously, there should be more there at that one, but it'll be interesting to see if there's an increase over time.
I think so, especially with the new council. That's a great point. We're gonna
Yeah.
have to do that, Jonathan.
Let's do it. This guy, he's still excited about his exit poll campaign.
All
So
right. Got to give me something to do to count numbers and put numbers on a screen.
that's right. So we'll track the attendance at city council. All right. Well, fantastic. Thanks for joining us today on another edition of Minot Talk. Happens every Tuesday, literally almost every Tuesday, because last week we weren't on. All right.
But next
That's
week,
my
2
bad.
p.m.
We'll be back next week, 2 p.m. every Tuesday. Be sure to go ahead and drop a comment if there's anything that you want to hear us talk about. Hear us look into, like little funnel clouds that formed above Minot, east of town yesterday.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff that happens around Minot. We'll be talking about it here right on Minot Talk every Tuesday, 2 p.m. Have some grand interviews. It's going to be great. Make sure you subscribe. Stay tuned for all the magic.
Haha.
Magic in Minot. We'll see what we did there. All right. Goodbye.